So I have no idea what this is, but I'm writing it down for later. Called Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun on Netflix. It's just it's Ed Helms and then some dude wearing a buffalo flannel shirt who looks like a blue man with a beard, looking sadly at him. I'm
Wow,
intrigued.
that's how I usually spend most of my Saturdays. Well, welcome to the show, you, me, and your mom. A show where three people sit down and talk about whatever they want to talk about. I'm your host, Eric, and we're joined today by our other two hosts, my best friend, Brandon,
Happy birthday!
and my mom, Mom.
Merry Christmas.
Her name is Sandy. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Good. How was Thanksgiving?
Excellent.
Mine
Always
was good.
food.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah.
of pie.
Y'all are beating each other, to stop so you can talk first. I can tell.
We're working on those awkward pauses, aren't we, Brandon?
You're solid.
It's a team effort between the two of us tonight.
Well, mine was good. We had a pretty standard Thanksgiving. We watched the Macy Day Parade, which was interesting because we didn't actually watch it like most people. So I don't have cable in my house. I've not had it for years and years. I've gone completely to streaming, I think about 6 or 7 years ago. But normally it's perfect. Normally I love it. But the one thing about it is when it comes to things like Macy Day Parade, I don't get the live thing. So I did notice if you go to YouTube this year, you could get Verizon's version of the Macy Day Parade. And
We did that last year.
they were trying.
So was it? So it's literally just like a camera on the street that watches the
Yeah.
frigo.
Sure, they were trying to step it up a little bit. So there was a couple things that you need to know about it. So first of all, they can't actually show you what's actually happening because NBC has rights to that, but they could show you the people practicing getting ready for it. So you never actually saw the shows. You would just see the floats getting ready,
Oh my
and you would just
gosh.
see the
Oh, wow.
people getting ready, but you would never actually see their shows, which was amazing. So we started giggling because we would never actually see what they're going to do, right? They would
Right.
get ready, and right as they went up to in front of the Macy building, then it would cut off to go to the next float getting ready. So we started really having a good time with it. The second thing that they did was because of COVID, they had extremely limited the Macy Day Parade. So first of all, there was nobody on the streets, no crowds on the street, and secondly, they really limited how many people were performing. So pretty much they only had a few performers, and then they mostly had the floats that they had prepared, and they had volunteers that went into quarantine for 2 weeks before Thanksgiving to work it, which was really cool. Thank you,
Yeah.
by the way. If you're one of those that are listening, we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for some
absolutely.
kind of normalcy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. But to compensate for the lack of floats and performances, Verizon got this idea that they were going to CGI floats into the parade. So you'd be watching an actual float and they'd be like, look, it's some kind of dinosaur from 1937. And they pan over and it was augmented to reality. So it was just the camera going down the street. And then there's this
Amazing.
really fake looking CGI dinosaur just popping by. And we just stopped and go, what in the world
my
is
Oh
gosh.
my
that?
goodness.
So last year, Missy and I watched the Verizon thing because we couldn't get any of our live streaming things to work, and of course, no customer services working Thanksgiving Day.
Of course.
So what we watched was literally like they stuck a camera on the sidewalk, or someone had like a steady cam on the sidewalk, and it was just pointed at the street. And so you never got to see any of the performances from like the Broadway shows and stuff, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it was great because you didn't get to see the things that get edited out of the parade
No,
from the
it's
major
live.
broadcasts. Like ours was pointed right at an intersection. And for anyone who's not been in a big city like Chicago or New York, those are wind tunnels, massive wind tunnels. So when you're holding these giant balloons that take 200 people to keep them on the ground as it is, they get like right up to the edge of the building as much as they can, and then they wait until the road is completely clear, and then they book it across that intersection, because as soon as they do, like that balloon swings and sways, and you see a couple of them go like they put the fat people on the outside. Like me and Eric would be anchors.
Yeah,
Like,
we
all
pulled
the-
that sucker down.
You notice that like all the tiny people are like in the middle holding the float, and just like trying to keep their feet on the ground and not look like that little kid in the cartoon. But it was spectacular, and we saw a few of them quite a few of them, that happened last
Oh,
year.
it's amazing. There's a couple things that happen. First of all, they don't edit away. So they had this guy, I don't know what his name was. He was a fabulous host. He was really great. But he was really excited, and he would go out and he would get the ones that are performing. He like, can you show us just like 30 seconds of what you're practicing? That's how he got around it. What he
Nice.
wasn't doing was, as he was walking down the street, he'd walk backwards and go, okay, guys, this is going to be the new float. And you do all this. And as he's walking by, he was constantly running into people behind him and about falling over. And so like every segment with him, it would just constituted him going, oh my gosh, was getting run over by a float or by a parade car. Oh my gosh. And so like it got to the point where like my wife and I were just cracking up laughing because like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Oh my gosh. We're like, yay, drink. It turned into an eggnog drinking game. It certainly did. And we just loved him. And here's the thing. I loved it so much because it was a complete disaster the whole way through that I'm going out of my way next year to watch the Verizon show. I don't want it to get better. That's what I want now.
Right.
That's my new Thanksgiving tradition. So yeah, it was good. We had a good time.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We watched Peanuts Christmas, not Christmas, Thanksgiving special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of people don't see it very often, so we watched it. It's only half hour. But yeah, we had lots of food just like everybody else, and it was good. And it was just very warm in Florida, like it always is. So it was good. It was good. Hey, speaking of holidays, I want to ask you guys a question. Before I do, though, for those that are listening and for those that are joining us for the first time, I have an announcement to make. Congratulations, you two. I have not told you this either. It is our year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
cool. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, guys.
What is it, paper for the 1 year?
Yeah, we have been podcasting for a year. Now, the first episode didn't drop till February, but if you guys remember our very first episode, we recorded at Thanksgiving of last year. It just took me 2 months to figure out how to make a podcast.
Minor details.
But yeah, so technically this is our year anniversary. Happy anniversary. It's been a blast.
Cool.
For those that are listening, we can't thank you enough that you've gone with us on this journey. It's amazing to me. I don't speak about it too often because it's just we get wrapped up in what we're talking about. But I do want to talk about how much I appreciate those that are listening. We have people that are literally listening from all over the world. We've had people join us from Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, all the way over to South America and Colombia, Brazil, Portugal, all the way up into Europe. We've got some people from Germany, have lots of people from the UK, Ireland, back over to the United States, Canada, Mexico, and many others in between. And we're always just so thankful and shocked that people care about what we have to say, at least for me anyway, and that you guys have gone with us through this journey. It's just amazing to me that people care about this and enjoy this. And, they've been with us for the whole thing. When I look back all year, the serious topics, but also the goofy topics, the chance to watch movies and make fun of them, all the way to talking about serious topics such as women's rights and Native American culture. All of these things have just been absolutely fantastic, and we are excited to keep doing it. We're not going away anytime soon. So for those that are listening, thank you for being part of our community. It means so much to us that you've gone this journey. So yeah. So I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm imagining it's the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I feel like I should go get a glass of something.
I know. Good toast. I didn't think about it, but we should. So anyway, I just want to do a quick shout out for our 1 year anniversary. But speaking of holidays and our anniversary, we were kicking around what we wanted to talk about, and this time of year it becomes tradition to do something specific. And I know it's for not just for me and for Brandon and Mom, but for a lot of us, we love to watch holiday movies. And I thought, and Mom and them thought as well, it would be a good time to kind of talk about what we love about holidays, our holiday traditions, specifically our movies and our TV shows that we wind up watching every year. Some of them may be off the radar for you, but some of them might be really well known. So I don't know. So who wants to go first? What's a movie or TV show that you watch every single year that you couldn't recommend enough to people that are listening?
I'll go first. So last year we kind of covered, I think we kind of tried to stick to holiday shows and Christmas movies that you're probably not familiar with, not necessarily obscure. Some of them are obscure, but just some of that don't get a lot of play. So this year I'm just going straight mainstream, my favorite classics. And I'm going to kick it off with the first one that my wife and I watch every year when we decorate our tree, Elf. Kind of like the latest Christmas classic added to the canon, I think we could say, of Christmas movies. and it's just such a great movie because you can watch it and enjoy it. You can have it on while you're fighting with the tree and enjoy it. You know, you can catch scenes here and there, and it's still great. It's, oh, he's an angry elf, or you know, Betty the Elf. What's your favorite color? Just so many random scenes that you don't necessarily have to catch them. If you miss them, fine, you'll see them again next year. But they're just so great, and it's every year that I watch it, I forget like how many people are in it until you're watching it, and it's like there's legitimately 14 named actors
Oh
and
yeah.
character actors at least. I think I actually even won that with a trivia one year question because I can name more famous people who are in the movie than the other teams. But it's just it's a banger. It's just great. And like I said, like every year, my wife and I, we haul all the Christmas stuff up, and we start Elf, and we have a fake tree that has like, you know, a skeleton to it. Basically, it's a pole, and then you have a bunch of branches that you stick on, you know, 6 ones with like red tips, and fluff those out, and then you get the 6 ones with the blue tips next, and put that on the next layer up, and it's just great. And by the time that we get the tree put together, and maybe some of the lights on it, you know, Elf is kind of finishing up, so then we'll pop in another one to put the decorations on it if it took us a little longer. But it's just such a great one for the whole family. It's just funny.
Yeah, I love Elf. It's fantastic. We watch it every year as well. And it's funny how that's become a modern classic. You know, it's only been out since early 2000s, and yet it's become, you know, part of the lexicon. It absolutely has. I think part of it too is, yeah, there's a lot of great actors, but it's Will Ferrell at his best. You know,
It is.
sometimes
It's
Will Ferrell is not at his best, but sometimes he's just
him
making all
playing just the
Yeah.
super positive,
Yeah.
like super naive character, because he'll admit it that he has a very dark sense of humor and can really enjoy things like that.
Yeah.
But when he's just playing that super happy, dopey guy, no matter what the situation is, that really is where he shines.
Absolutely, he does. And I know we don't see more of it because it's just such a specific role, and it would be very difficult to write more movies based on that kind of personality. But it's not just Will Ferrell; it's these one-liners that are just permeated throughout that entire movie. You know, you still every single year or throughout the year, you'll every now and then you'll hear
And they're
you sit on a throne of lies. You know, which
yeah,
is
they're just complete throwaway jokes that I forget until they happen. You know, like when he's making breakfast and his, you know, his dad's wife Mary Steenburgen is like, oh, you're up early. She's like, yeah, I got a full 40 minutes of sleep, and then I made a rocking horse. She's like, where'd you get the wood? And it just cuts to like James Caan walking through the living room, and there's just like splintered pieces of this like entertainment system on the floor with like the TV and the speakers and everything else just kind of sitting around it, and that's it. They never reference it again. It's one of my favorite throwaways
Oh,
ever.
absolutely. It's great. And the fact that they got James Caan to be his dad is
Oh, I
amazing to me.
know.
I mean, he's, you know, been a respected actor since Godfather, right? I mean, he
Hmm.
was a major part of Godfather and why it works. You know, he is a
Yeah,
legendary actor. And then yet he takes this really interesting role where he's basically Scrooge dad.
yeah,
And it's just, you got Zoe Deschanel. That's the first time you've seen a big emergence of Zoe Deschanel.
yeah. And that's one of my favorite things in her playing it because she's not the brunette manic pixie dream girl she
Exactly.
is in everything else, including real life. You know,
Exactly.
seemingly, she's just this like very like over it, sarcastic, like blonde, like just I'm just trying to get through. Can you just leave me alone? I
She's
really don't want to
basically
do
every New
anything.
Yorker you've ever met.
Exactly.
And I love that. And I think
Yeah,
Zoe Deschanel should embrace that more. It's unfortunate she's been so typecast at this point
sure.
because she does sarcasm really well.
Yeah, every year because you know we watch it like once a year. We might pop it in again sometime or see
Yeah,
it, you know, at someone else's place. But it's one of the things that like every year it re-surprises me with like how great of a character she is as that character, because
absolutely.
that is the only time we've seen her like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're reminded that Zoe Deschanel is a really great singer.
Hmm.
You know, she's got a couple albums actually that are surprisingly good, especially her Christmas albums. Just not a sponsor. I'm just throwing that
Yeah.
out there. She's a solid. She's got a solid
Her
Christmas.
and Joseph Gordon-Levitt when they
Yeah,
record as what is it,
she and
She and
him.
Him? I
Yep.
think, yeah, she and him, like they're phenomenal together.
Yeah, they're solid. That's a good
Yeah.
Christmas album.
But
New.
just some of the other, just getting back to some of the other people who round out that cast, like Ed Asner as Santa and Bob Newhart as Papa Elf, pulling in Hollywood classics like that. You've got Andy Richter and Kyle Gass, Jack Black's partner from Tenacious D, their band, as the two assistants, like execs that work with his dad. Faison Love is the department store manager, the black guy, the boss guy. Artie Lang plays, the Santa. Just phenomenal. And Amy Sedaris has my favorite line in the entire movie. His father's secretary, and it's the first time you see her, and it's just walking up. It's like, well, I've never declawed kittens before, but I'm sure we could figure it out. It's just, I howl every time. If I'm watching this movie with someone new, I warn them that this line is coming because, I will react to it.
It's funny every time.
It
never gets old. It's just funny.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's also a part of it is there's lines after lines of these throwaway jokes that are really great, and that's really becomes a hallmark and kind of like a picture of early 2000 where they just did a ton of throwaway jokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just really kind of snapshots the early 2000s. But on top of that it's a decent story. It's a solid story.
It really is.
It's not he learns a lot. It's this naive character going through New York. It's this classic idiot abroad kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just good. But yeah, there's these little things, especially like the claymation wells. That's the ones that make me laugh. When
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Hope you find your dad. I don't know why that makes me laugh of everything, but it makes me laugh every single time.
That got quote when we were doing, hoping to do Wizard of Oz this past spring at the high school. I forget how it, came, well, because we're doing Wizard of Oz, but at one point someone just goes, bye, Dorothy, I hope you find your aunt.
It's just
so, anytime we'd be leaving, bye, Sochi, hope you find your mom.
It's just from this repeatability. And that's what's great about this show. So it makes you laugh. You feel good because there is a deep moral lesson here, right? And in the end, there is a moral lesson that you're looking for. And, you've got all of that. It's just a fantastic story. And yeah, we watch it every single year. Now that's one that I don't watch why I do something. That's one that I sit down to actually watch. So yeah. So I love it, man. Good choice. Good choice. We came out with a banger. Mom, what you got?
Well, my number one all-time Christmas movie is The Christmas Story.
She jumped in there before I said it.
I know. Eric's laughing because he let me go first because that was going to be his pick or one of his picks. So, yes. But I get to do it because, I introduced it to you. So
fair enough.
I love the story. I love this. It's so funny. I mean, it's just so funny. But it's also so realistic to me, and the narration, the whole point of it is just, not that I was alive in the 40s, I'm going to throw that out there. However, it speaks to that nostalgic childhood that I can remember,
right.
And even to the point of you'll shoot your eye out, kid. And the teacher having the same thing. And oh my gosh, sticking your tongue to the pole. I can remember having these conversations in the playground when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And it snowed a whole lot more when I was younger, no kidding. And we would be weeks and weeks and weeks with snow on the ground. And that was a conversation we inevitably had, every playground recess that we had. We would double dog, triple dog dare.
Right.
The little brother who was bundled up for the snow and fell over and couldn't get himself up. The bullies, it's so well done all the way throughout. And it's so clever. And it speaks of that kind of Will Rogers sort of wisdom within the humor,
Right.
So yes, Christmas Story is number one on my list.
What's interesting about A Christmas Story is sometimes I wonder, this is just me being cynical. Now, you have to understand, I watch this faithfully every single year. We can't have Christmas Eve without watching this movie. I mean, it's established. But having said that, sometimes I wonder if it's really a good movie or is it just my nostalgia talking, right? But I watch it and I'm like, I think this is just a genuinely good movie. It's just funny to me. And there's so many great lines about that. And I think a lot of it with it is, there's some throwaway lines, but most of that humor comes from character driven. Yes. The characters are what's funny. It's their characters responding to different environments, and even though it's set in the Great Depression in the 1930s, it's still extremely relevant to today. And what's really cracks me up is watching a family that's like hanging on, like barely, just they're about to fall apart completely.
Oh yeah.
Dad's got rage issues. Mom is about to have a nervous breakdown. It's just amazing. And at the same time, it feels so real.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
so good.
And at the same time, there's genuine love in this family. You know, I think about when Ralphie got in the fight and his mom came and got him, and you know, they didn't like chew him out or anything. They loved on him. I mean, after she called his friend's mom, he said what? But you know, it was. There's a lot of genuine love in that as well. So.
Yeah, there's love and that sort of thing, but it's just how it was expressed. You have a family that got two kids who don't really understand sarcasm, but that's how their dad responds to life. Either he's just going crazy or he's being really sarcastic. And then you got mom who's trying to smooth everything over. So it's just a lot of it is just fantastic. And you know that feeling about when he has to wear the bunny outfit.
Oh yes.
And mom's like, you will wear that. And you know, I love you, Mom, but there's been times in my life where you have asked me to wear stuff, and I have never related harder to a kid.
Okay, I'm just going to say to all of our listeners, I've never actually made Eric wear a bunny suit.
You got close one time. I swear you did.
No, those were MC Hammer. What did they call them? Parachute pants.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a great one. It's one of my favorite ones. We always watch it. I think also with it, part of it is with it kind of, other than the realism of the family and the realism of the kids, it's just interesting that I will critique it just a little bit. There's not much of a moral there, which is really interesting. Most holiday movies have some sort of deep meaning. Even Elf has a deeper meaning.
I think the lesson of this movie is life is disappointing.
Yeah.
Because even when he gets the thing he wants most,
the
little orphan Annie decoder ring, the secret message is the same dang thing they say at the end of every broadcast. Drink your dang Ovaltine, kids.
I love it. And there's not much of a moral lesson there. You know, if anything, there's a moral lesson where capitalism is good, because if he's not thinking about his rifle, he's trying to get his rifle. He's not trying to get his rifle. He's dreaming about his rifle. And it's just kind of funny. There's not really a deep lesson there. But at the same time, you don't need it. You would kind of ruin the story if you had that. And I think that you're right. The only real lesson is, most of the time life lets you down, and every now and then you don't really win, you just have a draw.
Yeah, and if you're lucky you'll get some decent Chinese food out of it.
If you're lucky.
I see it differently. I actually see it just the opposite, that life is going to let you down. Nothing's going to live up to your big expectations. However, life is always good, and it's always funny, and it's always worth living. That's what I get from that movie.
Yeah.
You know, I just take it differently than
see.
you guys.
I would say I could see that. I get that from watching the movie. I don't necessarily get that from the movie, though.
Agreed. That's how I would say it. I'm with Brandon on that one. Like, I don't feel like that. That's what the movie.
And this is again speaking from kind of a cynical place where, unlike you two, I didn't see this until maybe 10 years ago for the first time. So I was in college, nearly done, about to get married. My soon-to-be brother-in-law and his wife were like, "You've never seen this? This is, our favorite Christmas movie." So we rented it from Family Video. There's one that's still open here in Lansing, a small locally owned video rental, DVD rental place. They sell a lot of CBD products now to keep afloat, but you do what you got to do. Modern solutions for modern problems.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's great. Anyway, I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, you're fine. And we watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this is the movie."
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I've seen it.
Yeah. So
I just, and then I realized, while I'm watching it, I was like, I know why I've never seen this movie, because my mother would be appalled.
Yeah.
my mother is very much I wouldn't say prim and prissy, but she is very much about like manners and behaving properly. And the scene where the mother just encourages her son to eat like a pig and shove his face in the
Yes.
food, I was like, my mother saw that once in her life, nearly threw up, and said, my boys will never watch this, I guarantee it. I
Yeah,
can guarantee that's why I have never seen
exactly.
this movie.
It's too funny. Yeah, it's funny, and then you have to understand. Again, I watched this. I have not missed a Christmas with A Christmas Story. Mom, when did you start making me watch this movie? It must have been 8 or 9. It must have been.
Actually, before that, it came
Yeah.
out in 84, so I would think the next year,
Right.
1985.
Yeah, so since I was literally a baby, right?
Yeah.
So I know every single line of this movie, and that's not exaggeration.
Fragile. It's
Yeah.
Italian.
It's Italian. I'm
Fragile.
yeah, it's amazing. So I'm not trying to be mean to the movie. I'm just saying
No, sure,
it's
absolutely.
just an interesting thing. Most holiday movies are like, okay, we got to make sure they feel good and learn a moral lesson. And this one's like, nope,
Nope, nope.
nope, nope.
See, the difference, Brendan, I think between me and your mom is your mom's not a nihilist like Eric's mom.
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah. Theistic nihilism is probably a topic for another day. Probably
But that's probably the difference between the two of us.
Probably not a topic for Christmas time. I'm just telling you right now.
It's a topic for any time.
All time is meaningless. Why not?
Nihilistic deism is probably something.
Time is time. It's meaningless anyway.
But I,
Probably sad.
and that being said, like I did enjoy like some parts of the movie, like and some of it, like the weird perspectives, like showing Ralphie's view when he's at the department store, just the fishbowl lens that they use when he's just the elf is kicking him down the slide and he's trying to, but no, I need the Red
Yes.
Ryder BB
Yes.
gun, or every time his dad starts just like swearing and it's just utter nonsense, and you realize, oh, that's just because Ralphie doesn't understand what he's saying, so he's just making up nonsense words that his dad is saying in those moments.
Exactly.
Like
Yes.
it's just kind of small things like that you don't necessarily catch the first time around, or maybe you do and you're like, okay, that's kind of neat, I like what they did there.
Yeah, and the deliberate choice to have a narrator, have him being a narrator after he's an adult,
Sure.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the choice of words that he uses as a narrator adds to the humor of
It really does. It's very specific. Everything is
very
very specific.
very specific. Like he's talking about his father's cursing still hangs over us like a smog over Lake Michigan. It's stuff like that is just very pointed and very vivid.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's a chef kiss. I mean, it's just fantastic. Everything about that movie hits on all cylinders. It does. It really, really does. And it just, I don't know what it is, but it makes me giggle so much. It doesn't make me feel good because it's not a feel good movie, but it makes me laugh so hard. And then I immediately go to bed and I wake up next morning. It's Christmas, right? Because
Right.
I think what it is part of it is because I'm like, well, my Christmas can't get any worse than that. So every Christmas is great compared to this movie. And I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, it's a great choice, Mom. Absolutely. And it kind of sucks that you stole it from me because
You knew I was going to say that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
All right. Well, what you got, big boy?
All right, my friend. Well, I've got a tradition at the day after Thanksgiving. My wife and I always begin to decorate for Christmas. Actually, we just got done with that. And I have a very specific movie that I watch when I'm decorating the tree or trimming the tree, if I want to be all prim and proper. Muppet Christmas Carol. I
Good
watch
choice.
that every single year when I'm decorating the house, specifically the tree.
There's one more sleep till Christmas.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's another Christmas movie that bangs on all cylinders. It's so good. And I know I'm an adult and I know I have no children, but yet I watch it every single year and I look forward to watching it every single year. Let me break it down to you why I do. First of all, the music numbers slap. It's some of the best musical numbers the Muppets have ever done is in
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, every musical number just hits all the time. And it's so good. The turns of phrases, the vivid languages that they use, it just really comes together. And they become songs that you remember all year. And they become songs that they kind of get buried because you don't sing Christmas throughout the year. But the moment you hear it, you start singing along because you actually do know the words.
Oh, yeah.
But
They've
they're
just lain
fantastic.
dormant since, 364 days ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And you pick up right where you left off because they just work.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, the musical numbers are fantastic. Like it's some of the best work that they've done musically. Next thing is some of the best jokes that they've ever landed as Muppets. it's some throwaway jokes that they do that are just so funny. And they're not, most of the time, I got to be honest, they're not laugh out loud jokes, but they're funny, clever jokes. And they make you chuckle and you're like, that's kind of clever. It's the little things in the background that Muppets are doing. It's the random stuff that they're doing.
Oh yeah.
It's the looks that they give you. And it's all carefully crafted and it's all lovingly made. And, you know, it's just
Gonzo as Charles Dickens being a narrator and Rizzo, just the two of them. Like I love how, you know, it's Abbott and Costello, but neither of them is necessarily the straight man.
Yeah, they're both weird.
When Gonzo is supposed to be the straight man, you know that things are going to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and it's funny stuff like this where they're outside of Scrooge's house, and Scrooge is in the bedroom, and meanwhile Gonzo's narrating, and he's like, finally Rizzo's like, "How do you know all of this?" He's like, "I'm the narrator. I'm omniscient. No kid's going to get that." He's like, "I'm omniscient. I know everything." And how he delivers that line, you go, you kind of laugh a little bit. And I know it's because I'm an old literature teacher, but I laugh a little. It's just these little things that they do. So that's first. The jokes land. Third, Michael Caine. Michael Caine being Scrooge. Let's
come on. What more could you ask for?
Oh my gosh, it's Michael Caine.
Yeah.
And he delivers it. And it's funny because he delivers it. You know what's ironic or interesting about Muppets Christmas Carol? You know who's the straight man in all of this? Scrooge is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it unique and stand out from other versions of Scrooge. Usually Scrooge is the one that's over the top.
Right.
And he's over the top at first, but very quickly Michael Caine twists it where he becomes the straight man. And all of these things are happening around him, and he's simply responding as we would.
Right.
And he delivers his lines so beautifully. Because, you know, it would be really easy for Michael Caine to just kind of phone this in and just kind of be a, you know, your basic average Scrooge. Because let's remind everybody, he's in a movie surrounded by puppets.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real clear about this. He's in a movie surrounded not by just puppets, but singing puppets.
Right.
And yet he delivers one of the best performances as Scrooge that anybody's ever done. He takes it serious and he gets through his lines. And he's using, by the way, they use a lot of the lines word for word right out of the story.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that interests me. They didn't try to modernize it for kids. They didn't try to do any of that.
It really is like, you know, it's kind of the beauty of the Muppets, how they do that. They go from just being ridiculous, like slapstick and sight jokes, and then it turns to just Gonzo the Great quoting this Edwardian, it's not Victorian, Elizabethan, whatever era, just this prose with like absolute sincerity, like straight into the camera, and all of a sudden you go, this is the guy who shoots himself out of a cannon and has had an ongoing relationship with a chicken for the past 5 decades. Like it just...
Yeah,
you know,
implications of that, and I love how you describe it. He's had a thing for a chicken.
No, and she's reciprocated. Like it's a relationship.
There's things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
and
then all of a sudden he's doing Dickens and killing it.
And he's nailing it. And the thing is, you buy it as a viewer.
Yeah,
it is totally just like your suspension of disbelief is just gone. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, here's Gonzo, and he's just telling the story of Scrooge. And you just totally get invested. It's a testament to how carefully crafted that movie really, really is. Mm-hmm. And that you are listening, 18th century English literature, word for word from a puppet. And that's amazing. And it shows you how good it is, and it shows you how clever it is. And so they don't talk down to children, they make it accessible. And when you do that, here's a really cool lesson about writing, and here's a really cool lesson about movies. This is coming from an old writing teacher. If you don't talk down to children and you twist it and you make it where it's accessible to children, what happens is you gain both the children's and the adults. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do here. That's so good. They don't talk down to children. They don't dumb it down. And as a result, they bring children up to more mature levels, and adults still deeply appreciate the art that you see in front of you. and I love this movie. It's one of my absolute favorites. I watch it every single year faithfully. And I'll tell you, I do it where I trim the tree while I'm doing it. What always happens is I do a few things on the tree, and then I get so wrapped up in the movie 2 hours later, then I actually start with the tree. It's just how I do things. So it's because it's so engrossing and it's done well. And there's moments where there's real fear, like the Ghost of Christmas Future.
He's
Even though it's
terrifying.
a puppet, it's a real deal. Like it's
That's
not
like a
playing.
rotted Skeksis in a cloak.
Exactly. It really does feel that way. And, Michael Caine delivers the fear expertly because he's a master actor. He does all these things. And so you have all these jokes, you have all of this stuff, and all these musical numbers that are just lovely, lovely, lovely musical numbers. And it comes all together, and you have a feel good moral lesson at the end. And you walk away, and it's entertainment for everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. I promise you, when I'm 89 years old, I will still be watching that movie because it has everything that I ever want. And if you're not familiar with Muppet Christmas Carol, man, do yourself a solid. Go watch that and just enjoy it. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, back to you, my friend. What you got?
I've got to throw out. This is kind of a double, but you'll see why. And these are movies that I just watched, and they're just kind of ridiculous and amazing, but in ways that Christmas movies aren't. So it's the Christmas Chronicles 1 and 2 from Netflix.
Okay.
With Kurt Russell, a few kid actors that I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of here in the future. But the first one came out 2 years ago, and it's about this brother and sister. He's probably 16 or 17. I think she's like 12. But it starts with this whole montage from like when he's like maybe 2 or 3 years old of like his dad and his mom and him on Christmas morning, and his dad's like taking a video, and he's like, look, you got a fire truck, just like the one daddy drives. And the whole like first 5 minutes or so of the first movie is just this montage of every Christmas or major Christmases throughout these kids' lives. And then you come to present day, and she's she's writing a letter to Santa, or she's making a video to Santa using her dad's old camera, saying what she wants that year. And her brother comes in. He's like, I can't believe you have this. I can't believe you still have this thing. She's like, well, it was good enough for dad. He loved it. He used it. And you start to realize they're using past tense, which is kind of sad. And now he's kind of a little jack wagon. And you find out, dad passed away this past year, and now mom's working all the time to try to support them. And it's Christmas Eve, and they haven't even decorated yet, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course, Santa shows up, and it's real. So the brother and sister basically sneak onto Santa's sleigh because they're trying to prove that he exists, or they just trying to see what's going on, and they accidentally get taken away. Things happen, they lose the sleigh, and they're just going through Chicago, which is where they live, with Santa trying to find the sleigh and the reindeer again. So Kurt Russell plays Santa as, this like gruff guy who, loves Christmas. He loves being Santa Claus, but he's also very dingy because he's covered in coal dust. And they walk into this restaurant, and he's trying to get help. He's like, look, I'm trying to get my sleigh. Look, Mary Beth Higgins. It's like, when you were a girl, you want this, da-da-da. And he's just like talking to these people because he's known them and watched them grow up their whole life. And of course, we're like, hey, there's a crazy man in this restaurant harassing the people. So the cops show up, Santa gets thrown in the clink, the kids run away, they find the sleigh. That's the whole first movie. It's good, it's fine, it's chintzy. The second one, which just came out, is ridiculous. Like even more so than sequels normally are, in and some of the most interesting choices of ways. So the second one, mom is now dating a guy named Bob, and they're in Cancun for Christmas. Bob is played by, and I feel horrible because I should have looked this up before, but he's in the Fast and Furious movies, one of the African-American guys. I want to say Common, but I don't think it's Common. But anyway, you'd recognize this guy. He's a character actor as well, does a lot of action movies sometimes. But they're not really there that much, because the daughter and now his son, who is younger than her, she's probably like 14 now, and I want to say that I think Jack is his name. It's probably about like 9 or 10. And he's got, an asthma inhaler, and he's got all kinds of fears and phobias, and he's very much, like the sheltered little asthmatic kid that's normally played by, some small ginger with big glasses and freckles. So it's kind of nice to see that different stereotype flipped, I suppose. But anyway, Belsnickel, who is actually a figure from Pennsylvania Dutch and German lore, they've just pulled the name, is basically this elf who you later on found out that broke the 5 tenets of elfdom, him and was cursed to become the thing he hated most, which is a human. So he has this big, intricate plan to get back and basically become the new Santa Claus, but from the South Pole. And he's got these jackalotes instead of reindeer, which are these jackal and coyote hybrids he's made. It's all very weird. But the first movie, like I said, it's Kurt Russell, and at the very end he goes back to the North Pole and you see Goldie Hawn as Mrs. Claus. I think she has like one line, maybe two, and that's the end of the movie. Well, Mrs. Claus really gets to shine in this movie. But this movie has some very dark choices, like I said. So Belsnickel basically says, takes the daughter and Jack, the other kid, and says, yeah, let me take you to the airport, because she's basically trying to go back home. She's tired of being in Cancun. She wants to go back to Boston, where they're, supposed to spend Christmas, where they always had Christmas with Dad, all things like that. So she's basically running away back home, and Jack sneaks on the golf cart for the airport shuttle. And Belsnickel just is like driving them supposedly to the airport, throws this like weird portal thing, tips the golf cart and throws them through the portal, which throws them into the, North Pole, just like out in the middle of the icy tundra. And fortunately at this moment, Santa is hunting Jola, the Yule cat, and happens to see them outside, the Borealis, which is, how he keeps the North Pole hidden. But when he flies up to them, there are two small children who have frozen to death pretty much. Like their bodies are blue. They are kind of like shriveled. The makeup team did a really great job on it, but I was like, they didn't necessarily have to do that great a job of it, which was, one choice. There's another one, which is a picture that I'm sending you guys right now on our chat thread. This is at another point in the movie. Belsnickel basically involves Santa Claus's village, and there's over, I forget like how many thousands or millions of elves that live there. And during the night they have, while they're inside the Borealis, snow doesn't actually fall there, so they have to pipe it in. And so throughout the Christmas village they have these towers, or this tower that just has all these cannons that shoot snow out of it. Like we pipe it in from the outside. So what Belsnickel's evil little elf, I forget his name, puts this stuff called Elfbane in the cannons, which is basically like elf meth. Like he shoots it off and they just start destroying everything and fighting, and at one point they're just like juggling chainsaws and fighting chainsaws. These are elves. These are the adorable. Yes, like I said,
I am really watching this.
Yes, I have not seen this.
Yes, I'm telling you, really, and it goes from there. So so at one point, then this is from the picture. The picture that I just sent is one of the most interesting camera angles I've ever seen. Take a second to look at it.
Right
so
now.
This is when Santa and the kids basically like bust out of his stable that they've been backed into, and they show you an eye view, or this like they basically stuck like a GoPro on a reindeer's nose is what this looks like. And this is what you see, this view of a reindeer while they're like fleeing through. You see this for like and it's on screen for a noticeable amount of time, like not long, but at least 7 to 10 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot until you're staring at this. Missy and I turned at each other like, what was that?
What is happening?
Listeners, we'll put this screenshot up along with this episode.
Absolutely will. Cannot wait.
Social media posts. But yeah, so, and when they bust out of the stable, they mow down and just like hit 20 to 30 elves, because these things are like maybe a foot tall, and of course they just go flying in the snow and nothing bad happens. But there's just like I said, there's elf meth, there are frozen tiny child bodies. Mrs. Claus is apparently like this amazing designer, because Santa's village contains like 3,000 different shops that she's designed every one of them and created. And there's a great line. It's like, well, shouldn't it be Mrs. Claus's village then? And Santa goes, well, I never thought of that. And Mrs. Claus goes, of course he did it.
So what amazes me,
oh my gosh,
you just described this crazy plot, which I'm all aboard for.
And these have nothing to do with the main storyline.
That's amazing. I think what it is I was about to say, this is the craziest thing I've heard in a while.
Yes.
But they got Kurt Russell to be part of this thing.
Yes! That is what is baffling. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Oh, and Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn plays Mrs. Claus.
Oh my gosh. The thing is, I've not seen it. I cannot wait.
Like Christmas Chronicles 2 literally just came out within the past week. Like Christmas Chronicles came out 2 years ago. I didn't watch it then. Like right. I'd been meaning to get around to it, but just didn't. And then we saw the floats in the Macy's parade for this one, and like these 3 elves are the heroes of the movie. These 3 elves go on elf meth.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's
That's
spectacular.
bizarre, and
Yeah.
I'm all board. That's a
There's
good
and
Christmas.
then there's also time travel where she gets to go back to 1990 and meet her dad as a kid. Sorry, kind of spoilery, but
What?
yeah, I forgot that happens. Yeah.
Just keeps going. It
Yeah,
just keeps going.
Belsnickel uses like science and technology, which sure, okay, it's just magic, but whatever. But Santa uses magic, and he was basically like Santa's like right hand man when Santa came. And they get into kind of like the story of the actual Saint Nicholas, the man in Turkey. Like,
Oh, they have time for that?
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
it's really great seeing Kurt Russell with like a very dark brown beard,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah, like supposed to be like this young guy in Turkey several hundred years ago, but then he's like, then the forest elves recognized the tales of his generosity reached the forest elves, so they gave him, the star of or the Christmas star, I think, which holds a shard of the light of the original Star of Bethlehem, which powers Santa's village, and then he moved and showed them how to make toys, and they decided to work for him. And
What?
then he started delivering the toys to the humans and spending more time with them, which is why Belsnickel started getting grumpy and ticked off. And there's just obvious product placement with, like, at one point they're producing the Coca-Cola cans with Santa's logo on them. And then, like, they have Belsnickel's logo on them because he's the best toy maker and makes the best toys. So why shouldn't he get recognition?
To me, you're still going.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of kind of like a response or ask a question.
I'm sorry. There's
All
just
think
a
is
lot.
he's
There is a lot
going.
because we just watched it last night and it's so fresh.
Still going.
I'm sorry. I need to take a breath.
No, you should, and it's well deserved. God, you know what it reminds me of? You ever watch that? It's glorious. It's on the internet. It's called Kung Fury. It's a half-hour YouTube movie, and it's designed to just make fun of everything 80s. So they cram as many 80 tropes as they possibly can. So, like, there's dinosaurs to Adolf Hitler to the mystical arts to like gremlins to martial arts and everything else, and arcades and everything. That's what it reminds me of. It's like a Christmas version of Kung Fury, where it's just like cramming everything they could possibly
Pretty
get into
much.
and just seeing what works,
Yeah.
So,
And there are cookies that explode. I forgot that detail.
of course there is. Why wouldn't they explode?
Yeah. Like, Jack has to go and do this one mission on his own because Mrs. Claus has to take care of Dasher, who got wounded in an attack, and so she's like, here, the snowman cookie gives you bravery if you eat it, and the ginger man cookie explodes. And of course, the snowman cookie is just a placebo, so he'll realize that the courage was inside him all along, blah blah blah. But at one point he's like, so does the snowman explode or the gingerbread man? He's like, I think it was no, it was the gingerbread man. Well, we'll find out.
Oh gosh, that's amazing.
I have to watch that one for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the first one's kind of like nice and heartwarming. It's good. It is. The second one, I don't know what they were trying to do, but I enjoyed it for entirely different reasons, I'm sure.
What it cracks me up was Netflix was like, yeah, we'll throw a lot of money at this.
Oh, so much more, because the first one, like I said, there's like CGI reindeer and stuff, and that's fine, but this is just all green screen.
On another level. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even have a response to that other than, well, heck yeah, I'm going to watch that. Because, I mean,
Heck yeah.
heck yeah, because I got to watch a disaster, because that sounds like a train wreck, and I am all for watching that.
Pour yourself a glass of something. Wait till you're, just a little tired enough to like really get in that fun mindset, and that's when you want to start this thing.
Okay. Well, there you go. Thank you, sir, for bringing the most bizarre choice. I'm bizarre choice.
I see it as my duty.
Like this gem that you didn't want to share with everybody. You're just like,
Yeah, this is, I was like, oh, by the way, you know what? I'm going to save it for the recording. This is what I was talking about.
yeah, that's amazing. I don't know. Well, thank you, sir. That's all I got.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to discuss that because that's going to take 15 minutes just to let that settle in my brain.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that was kind of like pointing a fire hose at a teacup, but like I said,
it was something. There was a lot of something. I don't know what that something was, but it was a lot, and it just came right into my brain. So,
I get excited sometimes.
Mom, do you have another one?
I do.
All of that. No.
Yeah. So I thought about a lot of different ones because I'm one of those people that think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but that's not the one I picked.
Yeah.
So actually the next one that I picked was speaking of train, was Polar Express.
Oh.
I I
The creepy
know.
Tom Hanks eyes. Go for it. Yeah.
I know. I love Polar Express for a lot of
Hot
reasons.
chocolate.
Yes, I love the song "Hot Chocolate." Like
That's a good one.
crazily, love
Same
that
here.
song.
Never
Yeah.
ever let it cool.
Yeah, exactly. Love Tom Hanks, who is one of the greatest actors of our time. But I love everything about Polar Express. It's really cool. It's not your typical Christmas movie in that it is actually a little bit creepy at times.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That
it's
Uncanny Valley's too, a little too uncanny.
Oh, I was about to use
I
Uncanny
know.
Valley. Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah. And it's not creepy in an unpleasant way, but just kind of in a
just a little unsettling.
yeah, exactly. That sneaky kind of teasing. It teases, right? You know, it lets you know that these eerie things could happen in life, right? Because it's not just this nice, bright, again, probably because I'm a nihilist as I'm talking about it, but it's not this bright, shiny, everything is wonderful, but there's a kind of undertone that, you know,
An edge.
yeah, there's a little bit of an edge. That's a good way of saying it. It's kind of like Wizard of Oz has an edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's so good. It's live action too. I mean, think about all of the cool things that happen on this train and within this train. But then there's a lot of really cool kind of other things that go on. I mean, of course, we've got our hero boy, we've got our hero girl, and this movie came out in 2004. And so for the hero girl to actually be an African American was, I know it seems like it shouldn't be strange, but it was kind of ahead of its
big.
time.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of representation at that time. We're just now starting to see some good, not even good representation, but some representation at this point in time. So in 2004, it was a little ahead of its time. You know, and the characters look real and then they don't look real. They look almost real, but not quite real. And so it's kind of magnetic in that you can't look away sometimes. I like you, Brandon, I actually just watched this last night. I watch it every season. And so it's funny. It's usually one of the first ones I watch. I don't know why. I think it's just the way it comes on TV. But anyway, I watched it last night, and you look at them and you almost can't look away from the characters. And there's this kind of, I don't know, the scenes are so skillful and the directing is so skillful, and the way it's all set up is deliberate and intentional. For instance, and the scenes themselves, for instance, when you go to the North Pole and it has this kind of German factory kind of feel.
Yeah.
Even the elves look mass produced. Right. They all have the same look. That wasn't to save money. This isn't it. That was a deliberate choice that they made, is that they look mass produced in that. So every scene has it's very deliberate, very intentional, very skillful. You know, all of these artistic kind of decisions that they made. Santa, in this particular version of Santa, he can be all different kinds of things in different movies, but in this one, he's a good and decent person.
Sure.
You know, and I like that he's mature, and he cares about things. I love that too. And everything is just kind of, it like makes things very dramatic about Santa, but it doesn't over romanticize it.
Sure.
You know, and I like that too. And there's some magic around all of it. And you guys were talking about a moral, you know, and the moral to me of Polar Express is life never loses its adventure and its fun and its excitement and its magic if you just believe.
Yeah.
You know, that's the moral to me of this particular one. And it doesn't feel like that tiresome kind of Christmas cliche that we see in so many of them.
Sure.
It feels real in an unreal way. So that's my second choice, Polar Express.
That's a great one. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've only seen Polar Express once, and that must have been 15 years ago.
What?
Yeah, I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times, and unfortunately, the reason was I forget if it was our copy or my brother-in-law's copy that we were watching at their place, but it got to the point maybe a third of the way through where it's when they're getting close to the North Pole and there's moose on the tracks or something like that,
Hmm.
and then maybe does the ice start to melt or is that something different?
Yeah, they're on a lake and it starts to
That's what it
crack,
was.
and they've got to get
So
across the water.
right, so right at that point, and it's right when like the guy is holding on to the other one's like beard and he goes, ah! Like right then the Blu-ray would skip and stop and freeze and
Oh,
couldn't get
that'd be a
past
really bad place. Yeah.
it. Like I'd seen it once fully through, but then I think I've seen it like 2 more times up to that point. But I just remember that some of the parts that I really like that stood out to me were like one of the really creepy scene where the boy goes out on the roof of the train and meets like the homeless guy who like
The
makes
ghost.
the
Yeah.
ghost. Like it was just like, well, that was an interesting choice for this movie, but okay, whatever. But just when they get to the North Pole and they're kind of going through these factory rooms and all the elves are just basically like getting out and shutting down for the day. It's like, yeah, did you close out that department? Johnson was supposed to. All right, fine, whatever. And it was just kind of like fun to see that, like even in the North Pole, there's a few guys who have to stay behind to walk up. It was kind of neat. And then just of course the Steven Steven Tyler elf.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. The Steven Tyler elf was so great. So great.
I just remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "Is that? Oh, well, it isn't going to be
Yes.
anybody else."
No, no. Matter of fact, last night when Steven Tyler elf came out and started singing, I lost it yet again, and I've probably seen this movie 20 times.
Yeah.
So I love that moment.
Well, cool. I wish I could give more to the conversation. I just remember glimpses of it, to be honest. I need to watch it again. I didn't realize you watched it every single year. That's
Mhm.
not something I
Yeah, it's one of those that like every time I see it, I was like, I think we might have to pick that up and add it in the rotation. I always forget. I'm gonna underline
that's
this.
another one I need to probably put in.
But yeah, but like I mean, and honestly, just as the musical theater person, going back to the Hot Chocolate, like I've watched that and just be
Oh.
like, okay, I need Julian, I need Gabe, I need
Oh,
just like
wow.
thinking of my theater kids. I was like, who could handle this? Who do I
You know,
trust to handle this?
So one year before we moved to Nashville, one year at our previous church, we actually did every year a big Christmas production actually at Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville. So it was a big thing. We did like 7 or 8 performances. There'd be about 15,000 people at once. And one year we actually did the song Hot
That's
Chocolate.
cool.
So
That's so cool.
I know I played in the orchestra, which meant I didn't get to play because it's only brass and percussion in that song,
Right.
which meant that I could enjoy the song.
Yes, you
So
could. Yeah.
all the guys in the choir were singing and they had the brass, and it was so much fun.
Well, that sounds awesome.
That's awesome.
I know. I love that song. It's just you're right, Brandon. It's such a great song to just, I don't know, it just makes you feel good, And it's about hot chocolate. Who doesn't feel good about hot chocolate?
Right.
Yeah.
Communists.
Well, communists, yes. I bet they are communists that don't like it.
Yeah. We don't like it. So, well, cool. Well, my next one is I struggled. I got to be honest with you. It was between Claus and the one I'm going to talk about. Now, Claus, for those that are listening, I actually talked about that on our very first episode.
I was about to say, we talked about that last year when it just came out. It's so good.
Oh, it's amazing. It came out in 2019. You can find it on Netflix. Mom and I actually watched it this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
With the family. We did a cast with just our family. So our whole family joined us because we're all over the place. And we all watched it together because it's a fantastic one. They hadn't seen it yet. And real quick,
it's just a great art style. The girl with the carrots. That's all I'm going to say about her.
It makes you laugh. It really makes you laugh. But then there's a deeper meaning to it. The ending is just, it nails it. It feels good. Everything about Claus. It's a movie. I spelled with a K, so make sure you understand.
Klaus. Another Netflix original movie.
Another Netflix original, and it comes out and it's just so good. So that's definitely my favorite. The one I'm going to talk about, it's going to narrow the people who are listening just a little bit, but it's one that really impacted me a lot on a personal level. I'm going to talk about my favorite Christmas special of all time for one of my favorite movies. I mean, not movie, excuse me, listen to me. One of my favorite TV shows of all time. I'm going to talk about Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas.
That is such a good episode.
So for those that are listening,
One of the rare jewels of that season.
I've never
The,
seen
of the
that.
it's
I've
it's
never
it's
seen
from
it.
the season without Dan Harmon of Community.
yes. So the season is uneven at best, but this is a fantastic one. So let me kind of set the stage for those that have not seen it, because we all know Community is a cult classic. It's not in a lexicon, like it should be. So Community is actually a sitcom that came out many years ago, probably early 2000s, I think 2008. And it's one of the best sitcoms of all time. And it's got unusual characters to it. And it's about the main character is played by Joe McHale. He's a disgraced lawyer that has to go back to school because they found out that his degree is less than legitimate. And it kind of starts up where he's going back to a community college and he meets a study group that are just full of weird people. One of the people that is in there is Abed, and what's interesting about him is he may be on the spectrum. They've never confirmed it, but he may be on the spectrum. And what's interesting about him is he's kind of like the show's explanation. What I mean by that is he kind of, all his jokes tend to be towards the audience. He does little things, he says little things that are directed towards the audience. It's very
King
meta.
of meta.
Yeah, very, very meta. And as a result, there's a constant, Abed is used as a tool to kind of change things. And what I mean by that is every episode, not most episodes, there's some kind of tribute or homage to a kind of cinematography. So like one may be zombies, and they really do a clever way of bringing in zombies that episode. One may be a Western, and they do a really good job bringing in Western tropes. Another one may be like modern warfare, and they bring in a lot of modern warfare jokes through like a paintball battle that they have. So they take TV tropes and they turn them on the head and use Abed to do that. So by the time you get to the Christmas special, Abed says, oh, it's time for basically stop motion, claymation Christmas. And then when that happens, you start seeing it through Abed's eyes, and the whole show turns into actual claymation versions of the people on the show.
Although it's not really clay, it's more of a something, and then he actually rattles off, like breaks the fourth wall, because that's what he does.
That's what he does. So he explains the rules, but it's kind of like claymation, but it's not really, but it's a stop motion. And so the rest of the episode, you are actually seeing this style of claymation Christmas. And it's,
and they all turn,
yeah,
they basically all turn into like misfit toys from the Rudolph claymation special. One of them, is basically like, I think it's like a Shirley bear. It's, the character Shirley is like a teddy bear with Shirley's head on it. One of them's, a nutcracker. Another one is isn't one like a toy plane or something?
or it is a robot, things like
that's
that.
what it is.
It's like this island of misfit toys they all turn into, and they're voiced by the actual cast, but their faces still look like them a little bit, right? So
Right.
and stuff. So his friends are really worried about him, so they take him to the school psychologist. And the psychologist is a terrible psychologist. He thinks he's going to make his career with the mental break that Abed has had. As they go through this, they kind of start role-playing with him. His friends begrudgingly role-play with him, and they start going on all these adventures, but they're just role-playing in a room. But you don't see them role-playing in a room in real life. You see what Abed's seeing. So like you go to the Cave of Frozen Mysteries and all that sort of stuff, and you see what Abed sees. You don't see them just sitting in a room in school role playing, right? You see what he sees. That's very important. As the episode goes on, they start to, although the psychologist is terrible and he messes everything up because that's part of the humor, because there's a lot of jokes in this.
Played by John Oliver.
Oh, played by John Oliver, which is excellent. As you go through it, you begin to see why Abed is struggling with his break in reality, and you realize there's a very deeper meaning to it, and it's dark. He is struggling because his parents are getting a divorce, and he just wants Christmas to be happy, but he doesn't know how that's going to play out. And because Abed's brain works differently, he kind of broke from reality a little bit, and he's playing this episode out in his brain as he's trying to figure out where his place is in this world. Does he spend Christmas with his father, or does he spend Christmas with his mother? And he starts talking about the Cave of Frozen Memories. They all go to the Cave of Frozen Memories. And it's revealed through his conversations and how he responds that his dad was pretty much absent through his whole childhood, and he has deep psychological pain from the fact that his dad wasn't the best father his whole life, because his father didn't understand him, because he probably is on the spectrum. And it starts revealing Abed's really deep emotional pain because of these things. But because he's on the spectrum, he doesn't know how to express it in a way that we consider normal. But I hate to use that expression,
Sure.
but you know what I mean. So he's trying to express his feelings of disappointment and hurt and betrayal and confusion. But the only way he does it is kind of coming up with this TV trope in his mind. And the rest of the episode is about him resolving that conflict within him and his friends loving him enough where they connect to him on his level to help him overcome this emotional trauma. Now, you have to understand his friends are a mess. They all got emotional problems themselves, but they team up and somehow, despite the messiness of themselves, they help Abed overcome his sense of trauma, and it restores reality for him.
And there's two things I'd like to point out, if I may. One that Eric kind of touched on already. Throughout the series as a whole, Abed is basically used as a way to point out some more subtle things the audience might not pick up on. The gang will make a plan. I'm like, well, how's that going to work? And Abed will say, well, it's an obvious heist movie situation. We're going to do this the entire time. It's going to be a complete misdirect. Meanwhile, Jeff and Britt are going to fix the entire situation.
Exactly.
And then this is within the first 2 minutes of the episode, and then you think, okay, it's just Abed being Abed, whatever. The episode plays out, and you realize it's exactly what Abed said. So this kind of device of Abed turning things into, well, this is our classic, claymation Christmas special. You're like, oh, okay, so that's just another thing that's happening. And then, like Eric said, as the episode goes on, you realize this is a much deeper thing. But one other detail I wanted to point out about the episode, as this is going on, his friends at first like, okay, yeah, we'll play along, no problem. But as each one of them is like, no, Abed, this is really like something you need to deal with, he cuts them out. He literally makes them disappear from the special. Like a portal will open and he'll kick them through it, or they just pop out of existence because he does not want to face this.
Yeah.
And so he just keeps going along with John Oliver's psychologist character, and the few characters that stick with him throughout. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll just keep indulging you, whatever. But like I said, as more and more of them are trying to just even gently ease him to this truth, he just cuts them out.
Yeah. And so you see the real pain that Abed is going through. And now you have to understand, it's a sitcom and it's played for a lot of laughs and it's really funny. Like, it's genuinely funny, but there's a deeper meaning to it. And it really kind of hit me hard for someone who's always curious about human behavior and the thought process behind it. And also I'll be honest, my own personal experiences in life, it really hit me hard that how he chose to express himself. It was just a great metaphor for a lonely kid that's a freshman in college. Actually, he's a sophomore in college at that point, I think. And he's just really lonely, and he's broken up because his family is separating from each other. And he doesn't have that sense of security that he used to have. And it's just a really poignant episode. And you don't need to, I will say this for those who are listening, if you never watch Community, you don't necessarily need to watch Community to watch this episode. And I'll tell you why, because the characters are established within the first 5 minutes who they all are. You know the kind of people they're going to be throughout the whole episode in the first 5 minutes. They're very good about that. It pretty much is a standalone. That one, and I'll be honest, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons episode is still the most perfect half hour of television of all time.
They've pulled that one.
Oh, they pulled it? How?
Dr. Ken's blackface as the dark elf.
But he's not blackface. He's a dark elf.
I know, but they're just being extra careful.
Yeah, that's the humor of the joke. That's the whole point of it.
Try to find it on a streaming service.
Yeah, they're not embracing it. They're showing how awful it is. Okay.
A buddy of mine just told me about it last week. Sorry, just completely brought down the mood. But anyway.
Shame. That's a shame. I don't leave this in the episode because I want people to hear it. That's a shame. Anyway, it's just such a poignant, concise metaphor for a kid going through pain in Christmas. And that just fascinates me. And I wind up watching it every single year. And it reminds me of, sometimes there are people out there that Christmas is their worst time of their life, and that we need to be mindful of them, and we need to be paying attention to those around us. And it's just always a sense of encouragement, because in the end, I'll spoil it a little bit, he does resolve his conflict through the help of his friends. And it's just kind of a heartwarming but kind of sad ending. And yeah, it's one of my favorites, and it's a very unconditional favorite for Christmas. So, but you guys know me. I'm always picking up weird things. So that's what I got. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
we have to stop. We've flown through.
I've got so many more good choices.
I know.
Well, we can part 2 it next week.
We could. We certainly could. We may do that.
Why not? It's Christmas.
It would be a fantastic one. A bunch of other ones that I've got in mind. So Natural Lampoon, we haven't even got to that one yet.
Hey, let's not take away choices that might come up in the next episode, okay?
Okay, sir. I have been significantly reprimanded. I will stop.
Let's not mess with future draft picks.
Okay, I didn't know we had fantasy football version going on for holiday movies. I'll stop right here. I didn't know you had your pick. So, all right. Well, for those that are listening, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had some ideas as to some really great things to check out if you've not seen them, or a good reminder of what you should watch if you've already seen them. And if you like what we do, please help us out. We're growing, but we love extra help. There's different ways you can help us as we grow. First of all, you can share us with your family and friends, and then you can also leave us a review on where you can find our podcast. Hey, if you got some ideas of unconventional things that you could share for Christmas that we could watch, let us know. You can do that through a variety of different ways. First of all, you can find us on our Facebook page, which is You, Me, Your Mom. But you can also find us on our Instagram, which is You, Me, Your Mom Podcast. That's You, Me, Your Mom Podcast. And you can also leave us a voicemail on most places that you find podcasts. We have a cool little button that says leave a voicemail. If you click on that, you can actually leave us a voicemail, and who knows, we'll feature your lovely voice right on the show. There's one other way that you can contact us. Oh, almost forgot Twitter. You can also reach us at Twitter, which is You, Me, Your Mom. And the last way that you can contact us is through our email, which is youmeyyourmom99@gmail.com. That's youmeyyourmom99@gmail.com. And that's spelled YOUMEYOURMOM99@gmail.com. I love it, man. That's
Sweet.
amazing.
You have no idea how long I had to go through that in my head. I had to write it out, make sure the timing worked out.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Put some work on that one.
I appreciate it. So yeah, they definitely contact us and let us know if you have thoughts about great movies or TV shows to watch during Christmas. Well, I've been Eric, and we've been joined by our other two hosts, my best friend Brandon.
Yep.
And my mom.
Hey.
Until next time, wherever you are in the big wide world, just remember, it can always get worse. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.